phenomenon is something that happens to even people without diabetes. Our blood sugars might not raise as high, but between generally 4 to 6 is the range I've heard. I know it can be longer, 3 to 8, but generally from 4 to 6 in the morning, your body, your liver actually pushes out glucose to help you wake up, to give you energy to rise. And that's a normal occurrence. But for people with type 1, it can tend to go too high for many reasons, like maybe the liver's pushing out more blood sugar than normal at that point in time. It could be related to what you ate the day before, your stress levels, how well you slept. A variety of things come into play with DOM phenomenon. And I think, being aware of your trends, recording, I really encourage journaling for people to kind of see if there is a pattern going on that might be affecting it.
Welcome to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. My name is Melissa Slemp, a certified nutritional health coach and the founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa, where I help women with type 1 diabetes to feel more empowered and live their best life despite their diagnosis. Each week, I will bring conversations and strategies from guest experts and my experience living with type 1 for over 40 years now. So if you're a woman ready to redefine how diabetes can look and feel for you, then the Type 1 and Midlife podcast is the show for you. Well, hello and welcome. Today we are going to dive into the nitty-gritty of managing blood sugar and overall well-being. Join us as we explore a common challenge in type 1 diabetes with our go-to expert, Registered Dietitian and Nutritionist, Kitty Finklea. Together we're going to unveil the DOM phenomenon and its crucial role in our lives. Wondering about those morning blood sugar spikes, if they have got you scratching your head when you wake up in the morning and feeling a little frustrated, well, brace yourselves for a dose of understanding today. From sleep rhythms to stresses, blood sugar impact, all the things, right? So Kitty's got us covered. Learn to conquer those early spikes with actionable insights that turn knowledge about all we're going to share with you today into action. So we're not stopping there. Kitty and I have got morning routines, think yoga and deep breathing to kickstart a balanced blood sugar day. And guess what? Hydration matters. And Kitty's dishing out wisdom on its impact on blood sugar regulation, plus snags, some ideas for balanced evening snacks. So we explore the sleep, stress, diet trio. And it's not just a theory, but practical strategies like fasting exercise and catching those sun rays can reset our rhythms and slash the stress. Just say goodbye to the stress, right? Let's get together and talk about that today. And we're here too to discover how to talk with your doctor about maybe tweaking the basal rates. That might be something that you need to consider when you learn more, and how tracking your sleep trends or your blood sugar trends while you're sleeping using a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, can really be helpful. And let's not forget about the power of journaling and self-kindness. So for bedtime wins, we've got your pre-bed checklist, tackling stress, sleep, and hydration. So, and then Kitty is going to wrap it up with some golden advice to fuel your days with meaning and lots more energy. So, and be sure to read my article on this topic, Navigating the DOM Phenomenon, 8 Steps to Manage Blood Sugar Spikes. And in this article, I share more insights and some actionable steps to get you going right now. So, and you can find that on my website, abundanthealthwithmelissa.com, or you can click the link right here in the show notes to get you straight to the article. So gear up for an episode packed with real life tools. And please download this episode too. Follow us here and share the show. We are thrilled you are here today as we dig deep into the DOM phenomenon and how to seize control with our guest, Kitty Finklea. Listen in. Just a reminder that nothing you hear on this Type 1 and Midlife podcast should be a substitute for professional medical advice. Please always consult your medical professional before changing your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello, ladies. We are back in this week, and we are here with Kitty Finklea. She is our registered dietitian that we love spending time with. She's our regular guest here on the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. So, hello, Kitty. How's it going?
It's good.
Yeah, I know the last time we talked, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. It's still hot. So we keep recording these when it is blazing hot. I think it cooled down just a little bit here last night. We got some rain and it was a noticeable difference when we got up this morning, but it's the heat of the summer in the South, isn't it?
It definitely is.
Well, today we want to dive into a topic that is, I don't know that I know of anybody with type 1 diabetes who has not experienced this on some level, and that is the dawn phenomenon. And it's also known as the dawn effect. Again, there's a couple ways to kind of turn the words around a little bit, but it's basically it occurs due to combination of different factors. And this is when we're basically in it can be anywhere from 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., or even when we're up and going in the morning is when we get that blood sugar spike. And it does tend to happen right when we're getting up. Again, it depends on your sleep schedule and all of that. So, there's obviously some different factors that determine what time that you're noticing this. So, and hormone fluctuations. And, we're really going to talk about insulin sensitivity. I know you can help us with that.
So, dawn phenomenon is something that happens to even people without diabetes. Our blood sugars might not raise as high, but between generally 4 to 6 is the range I've heard. I know it can be longer, 3 to 8, but generally from 4 to 6 in the morning, your liver actually pushes out glucose to help you wake up, to give you energy to rise. And that's a normal occurrence. But for people with type 1, it can tend to go too high for many reasons, like maybe the liver's pushing out more blood sugar than normal at that point in time. It could be related to what you ate the day before, your stress levels, how well you slept. A variety of things come into play with dawn phenomenon. And I think, being aware of your trends, recording, I really encourage journaling for people to kind of see if there is a pattern going on that might be affecting it.
Yeah, you brought up some really good bullet points here that we could just really unpack. And number one, like you mentioned, I mean, it's a physiological response that our body naturally does. And it is because our liver does produce glycogen and it is trying to protect us. It's giving us what our body thinks we need and knows it needs to survive, basically. So to get up in the morning and to have that, like you say, that release of glycogen to get us going. But it's frustrating for those of us that have to manually monitor that insulin and that glucose. So that's where it's obviously most evident for those of us that are looking at the numbers, whereas the average person is not. But this conversation does fit everybody because it's going to determine how you feel on the way out the door that morning. Or, whatever it is you're doing, right?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. So this is important advice for everybody. And I think the number one thing we really want to be able to do here on the show is just create awareness and get the conversation going and to understand that you're not alone. I know this is definitely a topic that is talked about and people do share the frustration around it. But I think the frustrating part is that they don't seem to know what to do about it. They feel like they just have to continue to wake up with these frustrating high blood sugars, which is no way to start a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that that stress may even make it worse,
Oh, yeah. Snowball effect. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about stress. You've got some great ideas, I know.
So with stress, first off, we perceive stress in our brains. I think a lot of people stay in their minds and they worry. And I think women tend to worry more than men. We worry about all kinds of things. So, taking a break from worry in your day is really important. And when I talk about stress management, because I talk about it with a lot of people think they need to set aside a time to
Mm.
relax. And that would be great. But I think a lot of times we don't feel like we have a time to do a yoga or a meditation, or even, like, I know one thing we've talked about is prayer, having a prayer
Mhm.
session. But
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
can do things like that in your car, just kinda take some deep breaths and slow your mind down, and I'm very big on also being more somatic with things, like, I'm a big sky watcher, so one thing that really
Mhm.
helps me calm down is just to look at the sky, or
Mm.
think about things that another thing that works for me on my walks that gets me out of my head is to think about 3 or 4 things I can hear. Um,
Mm.
so those little things that you can put into your day to kinda take you out of that stress mode can also affect your blood sugar, because stress increases cortisol levels, and that encourages your liver to make glycogen or produce
Yeah.
more glycogen into the bloodstream as blood
It sure
sugar.
does. It sure does. Yeah. And yeah, that's some really good advice. And, because and I've shared with you and I've shared here on the show, I start my day in the Bible. So I get up with the water, get the coffee going, very, very routine. And even like this morning, I'll use this morning as an example. We actually got up and went and did yoga. So we do yoga at 7:30 a.m. in a local resort here in town. And I but I still get up to do those simple things. I just have to get up a little earlier to fit it in because it sets my mind and my body. And I'm I am just assuming, because I don't generally have a problem with dawn phenomenon. I used to. Those were back that was back when I really didn't understand my basal rates and my insulin sensitivity. And I think I was more stressed in those days. I was working corporate job, so I was definitely stressed going out the door. But it's amazing when your routine changes and you're just being more aware and trying to
Exactly.
just like you say, just bringing in these things that we can intentionally breathing is something we can take with us anywhere we go. So just
Exactly.
understanding how to do it. And yeah,
And
definitely.
just calming your mind, because we
Mhm.
tend to get on a roller coaster with all
Mm.
these thoughts.
Yeah.
And I love like a morning time, and it can be 5 minutes. And I know
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of people that say, "I can't do it in the morning, that's not my time," but they'll do it in the evening before bed. So even
Mhm.
setting yourself up before bed, it's with a wind down ritual, which will also help with sleep,
It sure
which is
does.
another aspect of dawn
Yes.
phenomenon, is,
Yes.
not sleeping well or not sleeping long enough.
Mhm.
So that can affect it as well. So it's a holistic lifestyle that to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be crazy busy. It's just like fit in 5 minutes here, fit in 10 deep breaths here, look in your Bible for 5 minutes. Anything small like that
Yes, yes,
helps
and
the overall
yeah,
aspect.
most definitely, and it circles back to what our intentions are, how much we love and wanna take care of ourselves, and just kind of focusing our priorities, and it centers our heart, which definitely settles the stress. So it's again, it's this is not an easy thing. It's something that takes time and takes repetition, but it definitely you will feel the difference once you can think
Yes.
about getting all these type of practices into your routine as well.
And I notice, like, even in the car, if I have a monkey mind, just putting my hand over my heart as I'm taking those
Mm,
breaths can make me just
mm,
be more mindful about it,
yeah, really nice,
lowering that stress
nice,
level.
nice.
Um, Another thing that's really something to think about besides the sleep and the stress is just, um, getting adequate fluid. Like, that's a
Mm,
simple one as we move into the nutrition aspect of it.
Right. Yes. Again, you're gonna notice on this podcast, not only with the topics that you and I talk about, Kitty, but really everything. It all comes back to the basics. And sometimes I get the rolled eye with people that I start to work with. I mean, and they do that in a very polite way, but they can't believe that it's just the basics. It's the sleep, it's the hydration, it's obviously the good food, and it's lowering the stress, and it's the movement. It's really what we all need to do to help our body function at its best, whether or not we're giving insulin or not. It doesn't really matter what health parameter that you're trying to work through. But it does hydration. It's amazing. So, and when we're dehydrated, again, that's more stress on the body. So it's all
Right.
connected. Our body's telling us it just give me the basic stuff, and I'll give you back what you need. Right.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. I think too, like a lot of people ask me about the evening snack. Like, what to have for an evening snack. Should I have an evening snack? If I don't eat a snack, will that help my blood sugars in the morning?
Mm,
All of those things come into play.
yes. And that could be another whole topic. There's a lot of layers to that because it has to do with obviously what you had for dinner, insulin on board, your basal rates. So yeah, there's a lot of factors to whether or not you do or you don't have an evening snack. So what kind of evening snack? And I think I know what works for myself, but so what do you suggest as far as what's going to be better for the liver and the
Right?
stress and the sleep, if and when you decide that you need one?
I think the first thing I would look at is whether you feel like you need more carbohydrate before you at the evening snack or not, depending on
Mm-hmm.
what you had for dinner.
Right.
But if you have a carbohydrate, so like low glycemic index would be good, and then you want to combine that. And when you're talking about carbohydrate, you also want a high fiber source, which is generally lower glycemic index.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you add a protein to that, it's going to slow down how fast that carbohydrate is absorbed. It's going to give you longer staying power, more stable blood sugars through the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a lot of people that tell me that when they add protein to their snack, their blood sugars are better in the morning.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And there's actually a bar. This is funny, and this is not a bar company that I'm affiliated with. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to mention the name of it, but it is it's a protein bar that is it's very well balanced. It is sweet though, which makes it hard to put down once you start eating one. But it's been my go-to. So let's say it's 9:30 at night. I'm usually in bed around 10, and my blood sugar's starting to head down. I can eat maybe a third of one of those, and it adds up to it's about 15 grams of carbs. But what really helps with that, just like you said, is it has some fat. So it has some natural oils mixed in. It's usually made with some nut butter, protein. So it's a really good balanced piece of a bar, but that never fails me. And just like you say, and again, that's just one that I found. I know there's a lot of other choices out there. And there's even things you can make on your own at home, different pieces of food, like you were mentioning, that is going to get you up to a safe zone prior to bed. And another thing is we don't want too much fat late at night because that delays the response. So your insulin will kick in a little bit later. Or I should say the carbohydrates will kick in a little bit later. So that's when we tend to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and then we're going high because there was no dose for that carbohydrate. So it's a tricky equation when we do pick that snack before bed. But
What are your top 3 like food snacks that aren't a bar or not something that you bought from the store?
oh, that's a great question. Some of the things that I make at home, like I have these nut butter bites that the date nut butter bites. I know it's a tongue twister. Those are great. I don't buy a lot from the store. I tend to just put things together. Like I'll do like a handful of nuts and maybe a few strawberries. Again, it's balanced. So it's got, like you say, it's got everything we need. It's light too. I don't think something like that it's going to be hard to digest. And that's another
Right.
thing, we keep diving into different, kind of diving into different levels of this topic, but our body needs, when we're sleeping, we should be sleeping. The body doesn't want to be digesting when we're sleeping. And that puts more stress on the body too.
Right.
So
Right.
there's so many things to think about. It's like, obviously you don't want to go to bed with low blood sugar, and obviously you don't want to wake up with low blood sugar, because you didn't treat a potential low before going to bed. But obviously we're all going to be doing the best we can with these decisions. And it's like you say as well, picking real food that we can better predict the outcome with our body, and to journal, to get used to what does work, like that bar that I was just mentioning. That's a go-to. I just know it's never failed me. If I have that third of a bar before bed, I'm good. I'm good until the morning. It puts me where I need to be without spiking me or waking me up, high
And I,
or low. Isn't that
and I
something?
think,
Yeah.
yes. And I think if you have those 2 to 3 to 4 tried and true
Mm-hmm.
combinations that tend to work, that's really helpful. It's kind of a no thought thing that you've tried them, they
Yeah.
work for you. They're go-tos.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Cause
go-tos.
yeah. And we all need that. We all need something that we can depend on, that we can rely on. And it's not perfect. We know it's not perfect, but we do the best we can when we make these decisions, with what we do choose to eat.
Right, because you think about it, if you have a great snack, but you have a deadline in your mind, that can override whatever the snack's doing, but on a day where you're, like, on vacation and you're
Mm-hmm.
chill, I mean, all of that because our lives ebb and flow, and
Sure
so I think
does.
that's the
Yeah.
frustrating part of having type 1 is that it's harder to manage the ebb and flows
Mm-hmm.
and the stress levels and the lack of sleep levels and how all of that affects you.
That is true. Yes, yes. You pretty much nailed it. Yeah. And that's when it just takes a lot of patience and self-grace to just to know that, there's always a way out, whether our blood sugar's spiking or, going high or low. And just to know that, you can get it right or get it closer the next time.
Right, let me ask you this, what do you think about, um, different types of exercise in the morning to help with
Mm.
dawn phenomenon? What's your experience with that? I am interviewing you some today,
Yes, yeah, I love this. Well, just like I mentioned, the yoga is incredible, and I know we've talked about that here on the show before, and we've featured Rachel Zinman on an earlier episode. I'm a big believer in it. It's just it's an isometric type of movement that empowers our muscle. It engages our muscle because I know you're a big believer in strength training and resistance training as well, and it increases our sensitivity all day. And depending on the type of yoga, that sensitivity, that better response to our insulin can carry over for 36 hours. So again, depending on the person, depending on a lot of things, but it can have that impact. Big difference. Yeah.
I will tell
Yeah.
you, I read a study, and of course, everybody's different. You have to work on your own body. But I think, like, sometimes people think, well, I don't need to eat if my blood sugar's high and I'm going to work out. But the
Mm.
study showed that if a fasting workout made blood sugar higher than eating something before you worked out, which I thought was really
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah, that's a top topic that's really good too, because and it depends, and it's a lot about insulin on board and what the glycogen may or may not be doing. So again, I think it all comes back to having a system that you understand, on most days. And, because exercise, I think, I like the idea of fasting exercise. And generally speaking, we can do that. That's something
Right.
I've always done, to be able to eat a little bit later and to just kind of I'm just on cruise control until about 10 a.m. just based on that. So I can get up and do the yoga. I can take the dog for a walk, and just hydrate, have a little coffee, and just wait for breakfast a little bit later. So definitely. And another thing I just thought of, and this is saying, because I'm always learning too, ladies. I'm out there listening to different podcasts and different doctors speaking, but how impactful sunshine is in the morning. just for our natural circadian rhythm, for our circadian rhythm to get back into a good groove. Again, because we are talking about dawn phenomenon again here, but what we do all day is going to determine our sleep, our stress level, and the effects of what the liver may or may not do with glycogen as we're waking up in the morning. But to get that 15, 20 minutes of sunshine in the morning, and that might be harder for some people to do, depending again on their schedule, but it's not impossible. Even if you take just a quick walk up and down your street before you get in the car and leave, or anything like that, or maybe if you park further away at your office and you can walk and just put that face up to the sun and enjoy it, or maybe get outside sometime in the mid-morning. But they do say the earlier in the day, the better, just because that is the rhythm of the body to be able to get that sunshine and in that vitamin D. And it impacts the way we feel and also how we sleep that night.
Yes. So many things affect our how we feel and what our blood sugars are doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say we talked about the cortisol levels. Cortisol is usually higher in the morning and lower as we go on through the day. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that can indirectly affect cortisol level is processed foods, because ultra processed foods are inflammatory, which
Mm.
gives you a cortisol response, which could also affect dawn phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. I love how all this is tied together. Absolutely. So, yeah, and
So
that's
fresh fruit,
yeah,
eating whole foods is
yeah.
associated with less cortisol levels
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
overall.
Absolutely. So yeah, and it's nice to get this information, because I know this is a frustrating thing for a lot of people, and maybe if you're listening and you still are struggling with those early morning spikes in blood sugar, yeah, we definitely hope that all this information is giving you some nuggets to work on. And so what else do we have? What else can we do to mitigate this? I don't want to go too far into insulin or basal rates, because I know it's definitely something that could be impacting, obviously, what your body is or isn't doing with glucose in the morning. And that's definitely something that our listeners can speak with their healthcare team about. It's But the basal rate has a lot to do with that, because obviously we need, if you're going through these stages where your liver is kind of pumping out a little too much in the morning, and then maybe you're going to try some of these these tactics to reduce stress. And maybe that's your nighttime meal, and your nighttime snacks might be looking different in the future. But in the meantime, being aware, maybe the basal rate needs to be adjusted in the interim of all this taking place.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
And I think that's where people's frustration lies, is not knowing exactly what to play with,
right. Good point.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Which way do I go? Yeah, yeah. I do hear that a lot. And I think some of us are a little bit more in tune with making those adjustments. I always say to talk to your doctor or your diabetes educator about that. But we definitely know our body best. And sometimes all that can be is just a phone call to your doctor, just to get the thumbs up or down, whether or not you want to maybe adjust your basal rates. And of course, CGMs, this is another big thing. I remember I was talking earlier about my history with dawn phenomenon. I was not wearing a CGM back in those days either.
Right.
So to be honest, I had no idea really what was going on, because I didn't have that graph to kind of give me the data and the information. So that's another thing to be thankful for. So if you are living with type 1 and you do have the luxury of having a CGM, definitely look at that and see what your trends are, and to learn from that. And like you were saying, Kitty, journal, write this down, reference back. Maybe it was something that you ate that night. Maybe it was a stressful day. Maybe it was lack of water, all the things that we've mentioned
Right.
that
Almost like
could
a
have.
check sheet of those things that you can think
Yes.
about.
Yes.
The
Yes.
other
And
thing Yeah, the other thing I also like to promote too is when you know things are changing, like the end of summer when kids go back
Mm,
to school, summertime is when people are less they're more relaxed, and then that whole school time comes along or holidays come along or when you're transitioning from winter to spring, so it's almost
yeah.
like seasonally even thinking about how is this going to impact my schedule and my stress level and all of those
Mm.
things that can also help you look forward to things that might be coming up for you.
It's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, yeah. And just to take the time to notice this too, and to be mindful, and if by chance you don't have anybody to talk with this about or share it with, whether it's within your medical team or maybe somebody else with type 1, it's real important to kind of to talk through this, to have a plan and, to be thinking ahead. Yeah. So that we're not caught off guard. Another thing that you mentioned too is, we're really kind of connecting stress, cortisol with the dawn phenomenon, which is real important. I think that's the most important takeaway that we can have today is just to understand all that and how it's connected. But to understand that when we do start our day with a frustrating high, I've been there, ladies, I understand, and it spills into our day. So I'm often asked, okay, so do I start with my bedtime routine or do I start with my morning routine? And I don't think there's really a bad way to start as far as things that you want to tweak. I do tend to start most of my clients with the morning routine, even though it seems kind of backwards because it's really the bad night's sleep that's going to make those changes in the morning a little tougher. But trust me on this, it does start with really how we can kind of start the day and get those habits in line. Obviously, we're awake longer than we're asleep, so that's another advantage to it. So, what do you think about that?
I think that it's kinda like exercise or anything else. It's whatever you can be consistent about, because I
Mm,
had one client that say, "I can't do it in the morning, but I can do it at night." And I was like, "As long as you can be consistent about it, that's the
or as
most important
exercise,
thing."
yeah, it really is, yeah.
So, I think working on what works for you, and I know we say that over and over, but since we're all individuals, and I think that's a frustrating thing, there is no one size fits all, but we want
Yeah,
to know, like, what works for everybody.
we sure
Um,
do.
and I think that's where people get frustrated. I've
Yeah.
seen that in whole diet culture. "Can you just tell me what to do?" And I'm like, "Well,
Hmm.
you're different from anybody else on the planet. You're the
Right.
only you,
I
and
love
we gotta
that.
figure that out."
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And I think maybe the frustration is because it takes more time to figure out yourself.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I don't want to stop and look at the mirror, but it's real important. It really is important to could and just like you were saying too, just to mindfully see what's going on, to take the notes, to see, what part of your routine that, all the things we were just talking about, just the foundational things that we need to be strong with, hydration, food, stress levels, exercise, and all of that, and sleep, obviously.
And
Um,
I think too, not blaming ourselves when things screw up.
mhm.
Because I see women blaming themselves a lot for, like,
Yeah,
"I couldn't do it," or "It didn't work," and maybe it didn't work in that moment, but
yeah,
instead of
good point.
guilt and shame as a motivator, which really isn't a motivator, it's giving yourself grace and looking at it objectively and not blaming yourself for it, just looking
Right.
at what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing that that I do when I'm working with clients too is sometimes there is that frustration. There's that incident that happened. So I'm asking this question more and more, and this is kind of a quick thing to consider for everybody here is so when something happens, and I mean we can use dawn phenomenon as an example. So we can ask ourselves why. So why do you think I woke up this morning at 150 and within an hour I was pushing up over 200? Um, and just to kind of back into that question and if you say, oh well, I had that And this is no judgment here, ladies. This is because I have my chocolate sometimes too. But, I had, X, Y, and Z before bed last night, or maybe I had a glass of wine before bed last night. Just looking at it and understanding that that could have been the trigger, and what can I do differently?
Exactly. It's analysis without judgment, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, most definitely. Well, this has really been a great topic. So what takeaways do you think we could walk away with? I know we've really shared some really good some points here that could really support everybody with this, as far as just waking up with a frustrating high. So, what do you think our listeners can begin with today?
I think one thing that this would be something I would do for myself, and I have done for myself, is I have a little check sheet, like how is stress? How would I rate my stress? How would I rate my sleep? How would I relate what I ate the 6 hours or 3 hours or 2 hours before bed? Do I feel hydrated?
Mm,
What's my insulin and basal doing? How's my CGM going?
right.
Just a little check sheet is
Yeah.
the quickest, easiest thing to do.
Right, right.
Just
Again,
to
it's
keep
something
all
that
that.
we're going to continue doing.
Yes,
Something that's doable and attainable. But yeah,
because I think
and
after you do that for a while, then it becomes natural to think, to analyze that way.
that's a really good point. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And, to avoid it and just keep accepting it is definitely not the way that we want to live, or, experience this life with type 1. So that's a really good point. Really
I
good
think the
point.
curiosity around it, as opposed to, "Oh, I have to deal with this again."
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah,
Instead, what can I learn from this?
what can
Right.
I Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Well, that is good stuff. Well, I appreciate is there any final words of wisdom that we can take away as far as our hopes in the morning when we're waking up?
I love your I love your idea about just having a few moments in the morning to just kind of
Mm,
devotion or whatever you do. I journal in the morning, so
yeah.
that's kind of
Hmm.
how I ground myself. Or even
Hmm.
walk outside and put your feet on the ground and look
There
up at the
you go.
sun. That's
Hmm.
right there.
That's right. Grab your coffee cup and take a little stroll outside. Yeah,
I've
most
heard that
definitely.
your feet in the grass is a really good
Hmm.
way to ground. So
Grounding.
it's
Hmm.
little tiny things that you do that you enjoy that help.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And we hope that this topic resonated with you. And we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to drop us a note, again, abundanthealthwithmelissa.com. You can visit the site /podcast. We have an area on there where you can send us a note or some feedback on the show, or some future topics that you'd like us to talk about. We're here for you. And you can find Kitty Finklea. She's On Track Lifestyles. Again, we always link all of these contact links right here in the show notes, so it's an easy way to stay in touch with us. And we appreciate too if you would share this show. We're getting a lot of really great reviews and some feedback from many of you, and we appreciate it. And the best way we can continue to reach more ladies in midlife with type 1 is to share the show and to rate and review the show. So we do appreciate everyone who has found us so far.
I do have to say too that you have an excellent blog post on this very topic.
I
So make sure
do.
to look that up. And it also, that I thought was really interesting, your whole the difference between hot flashes and
I did have that. We did not talk into that. That is another hot topic because hot flashes is hot flashes, as many of us know. And then when you have type 1, the feelings of high and low blood sugar can mimic hot flashes. So, golly, and you're trying to get a good night's sleep. So,
yeah.
what the heck, right? So, ladies, we do not have it easy, but we do have all that we can do for ourselves with this disease. And we've got hope and support out there. So don't be shy about reaching out and staying in touch with me or some other ladies that you know. And we appreciate you being here. And yeah, and I will link that blog post that article here in the show notes as well. So until next time, we will catch you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. And be sure to check us out at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for our free resources. See you next week.